Listen, if you're planning to do something, talk to me first. Revenge sounds great, Nate, until you have to explain it in court.
You know that moment when your marriage dies? It's not some dramatic explosion. It's a single sentence delivered with surgical precision at a New Year's Eve party while everyone's laughing. Well, at least my ex knew how to finish what he started. Samantha said it loud enough for the whole room to hear. 20 people, 20 witnesses to my humiliation. Her martini glass caught the light as she gestured, her diamond bracelet, the one I'd bought her for our 10th anniversary, glinting like a weapon. The crowd erupted. Genuine belly laughs. Someone slapped their knee. I stood there holding my beer, feeling the heat crawl up my neck, that familiar sensation of being the punchline to a joke I didn't understand. My name's David Turner. I'm 42, an architect who clawed his way up from a family that fixed cars for a living. I designed buildings that last. I thought I'd built a marriage the same way. Solid foundation, careful planning, attention to detail. Turns out I was working with rotten materials. "Come on, babe, I'm just kidding," Samantha said, but her eyes were cold. Ice-chip blue, the kind of cold that comes from old money in private schools. She'd been born into the world I'd fought to enter, and lately, she'd been reminding me of that distance in 1,000 small ways. I set down my beer. "I need some air." "Oh, don't be so sensitive," she called after me, and I heard more laughter. I walked out into the January cold without my coat. The party was at the Henderson's place, one of those renovated Victorians in the historic district of our aging New England harbor town. You know the type: original molding, modern kitchen, property taxes that could choke a horse, the kind of place Samantha thought we should have. My truck sat between two Audis. I climbed in and just sat there, engine off, watching my breath fog the windshield. My phone buzzed. "Samantha, stop being dramatic and come back inside." That's when something clicked, or maybe snapped. I'd felt it building for months. Her late nights at the design firm, the way she flinched when I touched her, the whispered phone calls that ended when I entered rooms, the way she'd started comparing me to her ex, a trust fund pretty boy named Bradley, who'd never worked a real day in his life. I pulled out my laptop from my work bag. Thank God for cloud access. Within 20 minutes, I'd changed every password we shared. Bank accounts, credit cards, streaming services, everything. Then I drafted an email to our lawyer, my lawyer now, requesting divorce papers. The savage part of me wanted to go back inside and make a scene. The smart part of me knew better. So I did something petty instead. I opened our shared calendar and deleted every single one of her appointments. Then I sent her a text. "Say hi to Bradley's wife for me." I drove, not home. I couldn't face that yet. I headed toward the waterfront, where the old wharves stretched into the black water like broken fingers. The town had been dying slowly for 20 years, tourism the only thing keeping it on life support. I'd grown up here, left for college, came back with my degree and my ambitions. Met Samantha at a gallery opening. She'd seemed impressed by my rough edges then. Now they just embarrassed her. That's when I saw it. Her car. That white BMW she'd insisted on leasing, parked outside the Seabreeze Motel. Not even a nice hotel. A genuine flea bag with hourly rates and a flickering vacancy sign. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I could have driven past. Should have driven past. Instead, I pulled into the lot 3 spaces down, ended my lights, and waited. 15 minutes. That's all it took. The door to room 12 opened, and Samantha stepped out, adjusting her coat. Behind her came Ethan Blackwood, her business partner, the golden boy of the design world, with his perfect teeth and his perfect marriage to some pharmaceutical heiress. They were arguing. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the body language. His hands up, defensive, her finger jabbing at his chest. Then she slapped him. Hard. He grabbed her wrist, pulled her close, kissed her. She melted into it. I took out my phone and snapped 3 photos. Clear, damning, perfectly framed. Then I drove home to the house we'd bought together, the one I'd renovated myself, and I packed a bag. By dawn, I was checked into a decent hotel downtown with a gym and a business center. I'd left a note on the kitchen counter. Just 5 words. "I know about Ethan, lawyer up." My phone started ringing at 7:30. I turned it off and went to find some coffee. The thing about small towns, even dying ones, is that gossip spreads faster than the flu. By Monday morning, everyone knew David and Samantha Turner were splitting up. By Monday afternoon, everyone had a theory about why. I'd taken the week off work. Told my boss at Harrington and Associates that I had a family emergency. Not technically a lie. I spent the time at Frank's Boxing Club, a converted warehouse near the docks that smelled like sweat and leather and honest effort. Frank Caruso was an ex-cop who'd taught me to fight back when I was a scrawny teenager, getting pushed around by rich kids. He was 65 now, grizzled as old rope, and he asked exactly 0 questions when I showed up looking to punch something. Relationship trouble? He grunted, watching me destroy a heavy bag. Something like that. Want me to break some legs? I actually laughed. Tempting, but I've got a better plan. Legal? Mostly. He nodded. Good. Prison food's terrible. Wednesday afternoon, my phone, I'd turned it back on, rang with a number I recognized. Ryder Chen, old college friend. Now a divorce lawyer with a reputation for being absolutely ruthless. We'd grabbed beers occasionally, talked about the Red Sox, complained about property taxes. David, heard you might need my services. Word travels fast. Your wife's already retained Mitchell and Stone, the big firearms. She's playing for keeps. Of course she was. Samantha never did anything halfway. What's my move? Come to my office, bring documentation of everything. And David, whatever you're planning, run it by me first. Revenge feels good until you're explaining it to a judge. Ryder's office was above a sandwich shop downtown, nothing fancy, which told you everything about his priorities. Function over form. He was 45, Chinese-American, built like a fire hydrant, with a handshake that could crack walnuts. I showed him the photos from the motel, showed him the bank statements I'd pulled. Samantha had been moving money around, small amounts, thinking I wouldn't notice. Showed him the emails I'd recovered from our home computer, messages between her and Ethan going back 8 months. This is good, Ryder said. But here's the thing. Massachusetts is a no-fault divorce state. Cheating doesn't matter as much as you'd think for the settlement. I don't care about the settlement. I care about making sure everyone knows what she did. Ryder leaned back in his chair. Legally, I have to advise you to take the high road. Personally, I've seen what Samantha Turner does to people who cross her. My cousin worked at her firm for 6 months before she got him fired for attitude problems. His attitude problem was disagreeing with her about paint colors. So, what do? You be smart, you be patient, and you let me handle the legal stuff while you handle the social engineering. He grinned. You didn't hear that from me. That evening, I went to the marina. Ethan kept his boat there, a 30-foot cabin cruiser he'd named Second Wind, which should have been my first clue about his midlife crisis. His Porsche was parked in the lot, that ridiculous Guards Red 911 he'd bought last year. I walked past it, kept walking. Then I came back with my keys out like I was heading to my own vehicle. As I passed his car, my key just happened to drag along the passenger side, deep, satisfying. Then I took the bag of shrimp I'd bought from the fish market and stuffed them into the hubcaps. In this heat, they'd be ripe in a day. Under his windshield wiper, I left one of the motel photos. No note. Didn't need one. I was 3 blocks away when my phone buzzed. Samantha, we need to talk. Me. Talk to my lawyer. Samantha, you're being childish. Me. I'm being divorced. There's a difference. 20 minutes later, she called. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. On the 4th call, I answered. What, Samantha? You can't just freeze me out of our accounts. I have bills to pay. Should have thought of that before you started paying for motel rooms. Silence. Then, I don't know what you think you saw. Room 12, Seabreeze Motel, New Year's Eve. You and Ethan. I have photos. Want me to send them to his wife? More silence. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. Colder, harder. If you do that, I will destroy you. I will take everything. The house, your reputation, your career. I know people, David, important people. You're just a mechanic's son playing architect. And there it was, the truth she'd been hiding behind her smile for years. Bring it on, I said, and hung up. The charity gala was Samantha's idea of hell for me, and heaven for her. 200 people in formal wear, drinking champagne that cost more than my first car, pretending to care about whatever cause was fashionable this year. Normally, I'd have invented an excuse to skip it. This year, I bought a new suit and showed up alone. The venue was the Harbor Club, all floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the water. Samantha was holding court near the bar, surrounded by her usual crowd of sycophants and social climbers. She wore red, her power color, and I watched her face cycle through surprise, anger, and calculation when she spotted me. Ethan was there too, with his wife, Victoria. Poor Victoria. With her pharmaceutical money and her oblivious smile, laughing at something Ethan whispered in her ear. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. I grabbed a scotch and worked the room. Talked to the mayor who'd hired my firm to design the new library. chatted with the Hendersons, who seemed uncomfortable about the New Year's Eve party, made sure I was visible, friendly, completely normal. Then Samantha made her move. She'd had a few drinks. I could tell by the way she held the microphone when she stood up to give the thank you speech. As president of the Young Professionals Network, it was her job to rally the troops and open the checkbooks. She was good, funny, charming, self-deprecating in that way that actually highlighted how accomplished she was. The crowd loved her. Then she went off script. "I want to thank my amazing support system," she said, "especially during difficult times. Like when your husband has a midlife crisis and decides to act like a teenager." Laughter rippled through the room. "I mean, changing all the passwords? Really? What's next? David, are you going to key someone's car?" More laughter. Ethan's face had gone pale. He knew. I stood up, every head turned. Samantha's smile faltered. "Since we're sharing," I said, my voice carrying across the room, "I'd like to propose a toast." I raised my glass. "To Ethan Blackwood, whose business is doing so well that he can afford a brand new Porsche. Although, fun fact, did you know he's 3 months behind on his boat payments, and that he borrowed $50,000 from his company's operating account to cover gambling debts?" The room went silent. Ethan stood up, his chair scraping. "That's a lie." "Is it? Because I have bank records that say otherwise. Turns out when you're sleeping with someone's wife, she shares all kinds of interesting financial information." I turned to Samantha. "Thanks for leaving your laptop open, by the way. Very trusting." Samantha's face had gone from red to white. "You hacked my computer?" "I used the password you've had since college. Your cat's name, not exactly Fort Knox." I walked toward the exit, every eye following me. At the door, I turned back. "Oh, and Samantha, about those performance issues you mentioned at New Year's? Funny how I never had those problems until you started faking it. Maybe work on your acting skills before you blame the audience." I left to absolute silence. 5 seconds later, the room exploded into conversation. My phone started ringing before I reached my truck. "Ryder, please tell me you didn't just do what I think you did." "Depends on what you think I did." "Public humiliation of your soon-to-be ex-wife and her lover at a charity gala? Then yes, I did exactly that," he sighed. "Well, it's not illegal. Stupid, but not illegal. Expect her to come at you hard now." "Let her come." She came Monday morning. I arrived at Harrington and Associates to find Mrs. Delacroix, the firm's owner, waiting in my office. She was 70, elegant, and absolutely terrifying. She built the firm from nothing and suffered fools not at all. "David, sit." I sat. "I've received a formal complaint from Samantha Turner regarding professional misconduct. She alleges you've been stealing client information and sharing confidential designs with competing firms." My stomach dropped. "That's insane. I would never—" "I know you wouldn't, but I have to investigate. You're suspended pending review. 2 weeks paid. Don't come to the office. Don't contact clients. Don't do anything stupid." She stood. "Off the record, I know Samantha Turner. I know her type. So make your case airtight and make it fast." I drove straight to Frank's gym and beat the hell out of every bag in the place. Frank watched from his office, drinking coffee, waiting for me to exhaust myself. "Feel better?" he asked when I finally stopped. "No." "Good. Anger's useless unless you channel it." He pulled out a folder. "Remember how I said I was ex-cop? Still got friends on the force. Had them do some digging on your boy Ethan." I opened the folder. Inside were printouts of police reports, loan documents, and photographs. Ethan had a gambling problem. Sports betting, mostly through some offshore accounts. He owed money to some very unfriendly people. The boat, the car, the perfect life, all mortgaged to the hilt. "How did you get this?" "Public records, mostly. Some creative research, nothing illegal." Frank grinned. "Your wife's been helping him cover his debts. Guess love makes you stupid. Or blackmail makes you desperate." Frank's grin faded. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone and showed him an email I'd found on Samantha's laptop. From Marcy Sutton, Samantha's best friend since college. The email was short. "Keep Ethan happy or I tell David everything, including whose idea this really was. Your wife's best friend is blackmailing her?" "Looks like it. Question is, why?" Marcy Sutton lived in a condo near the waterfront, one of those modern glass boxes that looked like an architect's fever dream. I'd always found her insufferable. Too loud, too opinionated, too much perfume. Samantha loved her. They'd been roommates at Wellesley, shared an apartment in Boston after graduation. been in each other's weddings. I'd never trusted her. Turns out my instincts were good. I showed up at her door at 8 on a Tuesday morning. She answered in yoga pants and a tank top, coffee mug in hand, clearly not expecting company. "David, what are you—" "We need to talk about the emails." Her face flickered. Just for a second, but I caught it. Fear. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. The ones where you're blackmailing my wife. The ones where you're pushing her toward Ethan. The ones where you're bleeding them both dry." She tried to close the door. I put my foot in the way. Not aggressive, just firm. "I'm not here to threaten you, Marcy. I'm here to understand why. What did I ever do to you?" For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then she laughed. It wasn't a nice sound. "You really don't remember, do you?" "Remember what?" "Freshman year. You were dating that girl. What was her name?" "Ashley. She was my roommate. You found out she was cheating on her scholarship application, faking volunteer hours, lying about her family income. You reported her. She lost everything. Had to drop out." I did remember. Ashley Morrison. She'd been smart, ambitious, and completely willing to cheat to get ahead. I'd found her fabricated documents by accident and turned them in. It had seemed like the right thing to do at the time. "Ashley was Marcy's sister," I said slowly. "You changed your last name." "After she ended herself, yeah. Couldn't stand people asking about it." Marcy's eyes were hard. "You destroyed her life over some paperwork, so I decided to return the favor. Took me 20 years, but I'm patient." "You orchestrated all of this, the affair, everything." "I introduced Samantha to Ethan at a conference. Mentioned how handsome he was, how successful, planted seeds. Then I found out about Ethan's gambling problem and offered to help, for a price. He introduced Samantha to some of his shadier contacts. I made sure you'd find out eventually in the most humiliating way possible. I wanted you to feel what Ashley felt. Betrayed, destroyed, alone." I felt sick. "Samantha doesn't know." "Of course not. She thinks she fell in love organically. She thinks Ethan's problems are just bad luck. She has no idea I've been pulling strings the whole time." Marcy smiled. "And if you tell her I'll deny everything, it'll just make you look more paranoid and unstable." I left without another word. Drove straight to Ryder's office. "We need to have a meeting," I told him. "Samantha, Ethan, Marcy, and me. Somewhere neutral. Somewhere I can control the environment." "That's a terrible idea." "It's the only idea. I need them all in the same room. I need to blow this thing wide open." Ryder studied me. "You've got a plan." "I've got the beginnings of one. How do you feel about unconventional mediation techniques?" He grinned. "Tell me more." "Frank's Boxing Club at 7 p.m. on a Friday. I'd rented the whole place for a private mediation session. Ryder had sent official-looking invitations to all parties, framing it as a mandatory pretrial conference. They could have refused, but curiosity and legal pressure brought them all. Samantha arrived first, dressed in a business suit like she was heading to court. Ethan came next, looking nervous. Victoria wasn't with him. I'd made sure she got an anonymous tip about where her husband would be tonight. Marcy showed up last, confused about why she'd been included. They sat on folding chairs in the middle of the boxing ring. I'd set up a laptop and projector. Frank stood by the door, arms crossed, looking like exactly what he was, a bouncer who'd break you in half if you got out of line. "What is this?" Samantha demanded. "This is the truth," I said. I clicked the laptop. The first image appeared on the screen, Samantha and Ethan at the motel. "Let's start with the obvious. You've been having an affair for 8 months. You've been stealing my firm's designs and feeding them to Ethan's company. You've been moving our money around to cover his gambling debts. You can't prove. I can prove all of it. Bank records, emails, security footage from your office building showing you leaving with design files. I've got everything." I clicked to the next slide. But here's what I didn't understand until recently. Why now? Why Ethan? Why blow up a 10-year marriage for a guy who's mortgaged his soul to offshore bookies? I looked at Marcy. "Want to tell them or should I?" Her face had gone pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. Tell them about Ashley. Tell them about your 20-year revenge plan. Tell them how you orchestrated this entire affair just to hurt me." Samantha turned to Marcy. "What is he talking about?" I played the recording. I'd gone back to Marcy's condo with a hidden microphone, gotten her talking again, gotten her to repeat her confession. It wasn't admissible in court, but it didn't need to be. I just needed them to hear it. Marcy's voice filled the gym. "I wanted you to feel what Ashley felt. Betrayed, destroyed, alone." Samantha stood up. You manipulated me? This whole thing was just to get revenge on David? You were happy to be manipulated, Marcy shot back. Don't pretend you're some innocent sufferer. You wanted out of your marriage. I just gave you an excuse. Ethan was shaking. You said you'd help me with my debts. You said Samantha had money. Samantha doesn't have money, I interrupted. Her trust fund is tied up until she's 45. She's been spending my money, our money, and now there's none left. I clicked to the next slide. Financial records, the house, second mortgaged, our savings, depleted, my retirement account, raided. All of it gone, funneled through various accounts to cover Ethan's gambling debts and Marcy's blackmail payments. You mortgaged my childhood home, I said to Samantha, the one my parents left me, the one I renovated myself. You forged my signature and borrowed against it. I was going to pay it back. With what, your salary? Ethan's worthless promises? I laughed, and it came out bitter. You destroyed everything for a con artist and a revenge-obsessed sociopath. The door opened. Victoria Blackwood walked in, followed by two men in suits, lawyers, from the look of them. Ethan, Victoria said, her voice ice cold, we need to talk about our prenup, specifically the infidelity clause. Ethan's face crumpled. Victoria, I can explain. Don't bother, my lawyers have already filed. You'll be hearing from them. She turned to me. Thank you for the evidence, David. Very thorough. She left. Ethan started crying, actual tears streaming down his face, his perfect life disintegrating in real time. Samantha was staring at Marcy. 20 years. You've been my friend for 20 years and it was all fake? Not all of it, Marcy said. I did care about you, but I cared about making David suffer more. Well, congratulations. You succeeded. Samantha turned to me. What now? You've humiliated all of us. You've destroyed Ethan's marriage. You've exposed Marcy. What's your endgame? I pulled out a document. This is a settlement agreement. You sign over your half of the house to me. You pay back every penny you stole from my accounts. You resign from your firm and release a statement admitting to corporate espionage. In exchange, I don't press criminal charges, and I don't send this evidence to every professional organization you're part of. That's insane. I'll never work again. Should have thought of that before you committed fraud. I slid the document across to Ethan. You're going to confess to your company's board about the embezzlement. You're going to enter rehab for your gambling addiction. And you're going to stay the hell away from my wife. Sorry, ex-wife. And if we don't, Marcy asked. Frank stepped forward. He didn't say anything. Didn't need to. And you, I said to Marcy, you're going to write a confession. Everything. Ashley, the manipulation, the blackmail. You're going to send it to Samantha's parents, to your employer, to everyone who needs to know what kind of person you really are. Then you're going to leave town. I don't care where you go, but you're not staying here. You can't make me... I can't, but I can make your life very difficult. I've got friends in this town, real friends, not the fake kind, and they're very good at making problems disappear. I looked at Frank, who nodded. Silence filled the gym. Then, one by one, they signed. Ethan signed first, his hand shaking. Marcy signed next, her jaw tight with rage. Samantha was last. She looked at me as she signed, and for just a moment, I saw the girl I'd married, the one who'd laughed at my jokes and believed in my dreams. Then the moment passed, and she was just a stranger who'd stolen my life. We're done, I said. Get out. They left. Frank locked the door behind them. Feel better? He asked. Not yet, I said, but I will. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of Mrs. Delacroix's desk. The investigation had concluded. Every allegation Samantha made had been disproven. The firm's IT department had traced the leaked designs back to Samantha's own computer. The evidence was overwhelming. You're reinstated, Mrs. Delacroix said. Full back pay plus a bonus for the trouble, and I'm promoting you to senior partner. Thank you. Don't thank me. You earned it. She paused. I'm sorry about your marriage. I'm not, I said, and meant it. The divorce finalized quickly once Samantha stopped fighting. She got nothing. The prenup we'd signed was ironclad, and her fraud invalidated any claims she might have had. The house was mine. The savings she hadn't stolen were mine. My life was mine again. Ethan lost everything. His wife divorced him, his company fired him, and last I heard he was living in a studio apartment in Worcester, working retail. The gambling debts followed him, but that wasn't my problem anymore. Marcy disappeared, quit her job, broke her lease, vanished. I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved to California. Good riddance. Samantha tried to rebuild. She got a job at a smaller firm in Providence, took a massive pay cut, started therapy. Her parents cut her off financially. Apparently, forging documents and corporate espionage weren't the kind of scandals old money forgave easily. I saw her once at a coffee shop downtown. She looked tired, older. She saw me too, started to approach, then thought better of it and left. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. Mostly, I just felt tired, but I also felt free. I threw myself into work, designed a community center for the North Side pro bono, started teaching a class at the community college, Introduction to Architecture, spent more time at Frank's gym, got back in shape, even competed in a few amateur boxing matches, lost most of them, but winning wasn't the point. The point was getting back up. 6 months after the divorce, I was at the marina, watching the sunset, when my phone rang. Unknown number. David Turner? Speaking. This is Jennifer Walsh. I'm a producer for a documentary series about corporate fraud. I heard about your case, and I'd love to talk to you about participating. Not interested. We're offering... I said no, thanks anyway. I hung up. Some stories didn't need to be told. Some victories didn't need an audience. I sold the house. Too many memories, too many ghosts. Bought a smaller place near the water, a fixer-upper that needed work. Spent my weekends renovating it, building something new from something broken. One Saturday, Frank stopped by with coffee and bagels. We sat on the porch, watching boats drift past. "You did good, kid," he said. "Did I? Sometimes I wonder if I'm any better than they were. You didn't cheat. You didn't lie. You didn't destroy people for fun. You just made sure the truth came out." He sipped his coffee. "That's not revenge. That's justice. Feels like revenge. Good revenge usually does." We sat in comfortable silence. Then Frank said, "You know what the difference is between you and them?" "What?" "You knew when to stop. They didn't. That's why you're sitting here drinking coffee and they're living in the wreckage they created." He was right. I had known when to stop. I could have destroyed them completely, leaked everything to the press, ruined them beyond recovery, made sure they never worked again. But I hadn't. I'd taken what was mine, made sure they faced consequences, and then I'd walked away. That evening, I went to the boxing club. Frank was training a kid, maybe 16, skinny and scared. The kid reminded me of myself at that age. "David, this is Marcus. Marcus, this is David. He's going to show you some combinations." I worked with the kid for an hour, teaching him footwork, how to protect himself, how to hit back when life knocked him down. When we finished, the kid was grinning, exhausted, and exhilarated. "Thanks, Mr. Turner. Call me David, and come back next week. You've got potential." After he left, Frank said, "You're good with the kids. Ever think about coaching?" "Maybe. When I retire?" "You're 42. That's like 100 in boxer years." I laughed. It felt good to laugh. It had been a long time. A year after the divorce, I ran into Victoria Blackwood at a gallery opening. She was with a new man, younger, better looking than Ethan, and she seemed happy. "David," she said warmly. "How are you?" "Good. Really good. You?" "Excellent. Thank you again for the evidence. My lawyer said it was the most thorough documentation they'd ever seen in a divorce case. Glad I could help. I heard you're teaching now, at the community college. Part-time. I like it. Good for you." She paused. "I also heard Ethan's in rehab. Second time. Apparently the first one didn't take. I hope he gets the help he needs." "You're more generous than I am. I hope he suffers." She smiled, but there was steel in it. "Well, take care, David. You deserve happiness." "You too." I left the gallery and walked along the waterfront. The town was changing. New restaurants opening, old buildings being renovated, tourists returning. It was still rough around the edges, still carried the scars of its decline, but it was fighting back, surviving, rebuilding, like me. I thought about Samantha sometimes, wondered if she'd learned anything, if she regretted her choices, if she was happy. Mostly, I hoped she'd found some peace. Not for her sake, for mine. Carrying anger was exhausting, and I was tired of being tired. 2 years after the divorce, I met someone. Her name was Rachel. She taught high school English, and she had no idea who I was or what I'd been through. We met at a bookstore. She was looking for a copy of something by Stephen King. I recommended The Stand. We started talking. She was funny, smart, kind, nothing like Samantha, everything like what I needed. On our third date, I told her about the divorce. Not all of it. She didn't need to know every sordid detail, but enough. She listened without judgment, without pity, just quiet understanding. "That must have been awful," she said. It was. But I survived. More than survived. You rebuilt. Still rebuilding. It's a process. Aren't we all? She smiled. I was married before, too. He wasn't abusive or anything dramatic, just wrong. We wanted different things. It took me 3 years to leave and another 2 to stop feeling guilty about it. Do you regret it? Leaving? Never. Staying as long as I did? Every day. We dated for a year before I proposed. Nothing fancy, just the 2 of us at the marina, watching the sunset, and I asked if she wanted to keep rebuilding together. She said yes. We got married at the courthouse, just Frank and Rachel's sister as witnesses. No big party, no drama, no expensive dress. Just 2 people who'd been broken and decided to try being whole together. Frank gave a toast at the small dinner we had afterward. To second chances and new beginnings, and to knowing when to walk away from a fight. And when to stay and finish it, I added. We clinked glasses. I never saw Samantha again. Heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved to Seattle, started over completely. Good for her, I meant it. Ethan died 3 years after the divorce. Overdose, the gambling debts had followed him, and he'd tried to numb the pressure with pills. I felt bad when I heard. Not guilty, he'd made his choices, but sad. Sad that he'd never found a way out of the hole he'd dug. Marcy sent me a letter 5 years after everything fell apart. It was short. I'm sorry, I know it doesn't matter now, but I needed to say it. Ashley's end destroyed me, and I spent 20 years trying to destroy you. It didn't make me feel better. It didn't bring her back, it just made everything worse. I'm in therapy now, trying to be better, trying to forgive myself. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I did was wrong. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. I burned the letter. Not out of anger, but because I didn't need it. Her apology, her guilt, her redemption, none of it was my responsibility. I'd moved on. That was enough. Rachel and I bought a house together. Not the one I'd shared with Samantha. Not the fixer-upper I'd renovated. Something new. Something ours. We painted the walls together, argued about furniture, planted a garden that mostly died, but we kept trying. I still taught at the community college. Still worked at Harrington and Associates, though I'd cut back my hours. Still trained at Frank's gym, though I'd moved from fighting to coaching. Life was smaller than it had been during my marriage, but it was also fuller, more real. One evening, Rachel and I were sitting on our porch, drinking wine, watching fireflies. She leaned against me and said, "You know what I love about you? My devastating good looks and sparkling wit." She laughed. "Besides that, I love that you survived something terrible and didn't let it make you terrible. A lot of people would have become bitter, angry, but you didn't. I was angry for a long time. But you didn't stay there. That's the difference." Maybe she was right. Maybe the real victory wasn't destroying Samantha and Ethan and Marcy. Maybe it was refusing to let them destroy me. I thought about that night at the boxing club, when I'd forced them all to face the truth. I'd felt powerful then, righteous, vindicated. But the real power came later, in the quiet moments when I chose to build instead of burn, to grow instead of grieve, to love instead of hate. The underdog's bite wasn't about revenge. It was about survival, about getting knocked down and getting back up, about refusing to stay down, no matter how hard the hit. I'd been knocked down. I'd gotten back up. And I'd built a life worth living. That was the real victory. Not the destruction of my enemies, but the reconstruction of myself. Rachel fell asleep against my shoulder. I sat there, holding her, watching the fireflies dance. And for the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. The past was behind me. The future was ahead. And the present, this moment, this life, this second chance, was exactly where I needed to be. I'd survived the worst thing I could imagine, and I'd come out the other side. Not unscathed, I carried scars, everyone does, but unbroken. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.